Okay, can you imagine being on time? They set the meeting time at 9:30. It's 9:20. I'm at the entrance to the police check at the Mugrabi gate to enter the Temple Mount with a group of tour guides, and I'm the only one here. So I'm a little early, and that's all right. I'm going to wait for the others, and then we're going to go through the police security check at the entrance to the ramp before the Mugrabi gate, and we will visit the Temple Mount. Of course, before coming here, I went to the mikveh in the Jewish Quarter, and I had an interesting experience there that I spoke about in the last video. If you missed that, then go back and check that out. So enjoy the day, and I look forward to your questions and comments, and share the video. Be well. We are in the police check before the entrance to the Temple Mount, and I didn't turn on, I turned off the camera while we were in the check, just not to get in trouble with the officials there. But I took this photograph, which is inside the police check area, of two Israeli police officers who were murdered by terrorists on the Temple Mount. Their names were Ha'il Satawi and Kamil Sha'anan. Both of them were members of the Druze community, and they were murdered by terrorists on the Temple Mount about 3 years ago. So this is a memorial plaque to those two Israeli police officers who were killed by the Muslim terrorists on the Temple Mount. And now we pass through the security check, and there's a waiting area here under the shade. And at the waiting area, there is a huge model of the temple, of the second temple that was built by Herod the Great, which stood on the top of the Temple Mount. So after we enter the security check, we can take a look at this model, and we can see some photographs of the Temple Mount above, some aerial photos, and photos of the Temple Mount in different stages throughout history. And then we get a briefing from the police officer in charge, and afterwards we can go up to the ramp towards the Temple Mount. The entrance to the Temple Mount, there are actually 10 entrances to the Temple Mount, but only one of the 10 is open to non-Muslim people. That means Jews and Christians and tourists. And this gate is called the Mugrabi gate, and it's on the southern part of the Western Wall. If you are at the Western Wall Plaza, facing the Western Wall, and you will see a ramp, like a bridge, that leads up to the Temple Mount. And that is the gate that leads to the Mugrabi gate. Here we are speaking with a police officer, or the police officer is speaking with us and giving us the briefing regarding the special rules on visiting the Temple Mount for non-Muslim people. Non-Muslims are only allowed to enter the Temple Mount a few hours each day, from Sunday through Thursday. Non-Muslims are not allowed to enter on Friday or on Saturday, and non-Muslims are not allowed to bring up any holy books, any prayer books, are not allowed to pray or do anything that might be considered a religious act. We are now walking up the ramp police escort to the Mugrabi gate. Muslim we went through visitors to the security Temple Mount, check, and as we will see on the Temple Mount, there are briefing also with rules from the Muslim guards officer who who was work in charge for here. the WAC. And we're walking up this ramp. Islamic, this ramp has been spoken about recently in the news because trust. it was built to be a temporary solution, and so we are it's been here for a number of years, up the bridge, and there are concerns that the ramp or bridge is not sturdy enough to continue to provide its purpose, and that it's dangerous. Here we can see through the cracks. We're walking over the women's section, and it seems that there's some kind of work being done now to strengthen the the ram because of this concern, and even more after the tragedy that took place at Miron. But there's also political issues that are included in this discussion.
Part of the women's section of the Western Wall, and we're going to pass through the gate. We're going to pass through, so we're facing east, and we're going to enter the Temple Mount. I posted a video a few days ago walking around in the Western Wall Plaza, and I spoke a bit about the Western Wall. Always feel free to ask any questions. You can post in the comment section and ask about anything you're seeing in these videos, or any questions about places in Israel or customs, the different religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity, the different dominations of Christianity, and in all the different groups. If I don't know, I'm glad to get the questions, because it will. I'll look up. I'll do some research. We're here at the Jewish Quarter, which is across the valley. The Western Wall Plaza is kind of in a valley. It's really in a valley between the Temple Mount, which is Mount Moriah, is the eastern mountain, and the Jewish Quarter is on the western mountain. And I also did a video walking through the Shuk on a road that goes along the valley, which is called the Valley Road. In Hebrew it's called Rachol Hagai, and in Arabic it's called Al-Wadi, which also means the valley. And here we're standing at the Mugrabi gate. You can see the great, huge green door, it's a wooden door. They close that at times when this gate is not open. As I mentioned earlier, this is the only gate that non-Muslims are allowed to use to access the Temple Mount, and it's only open a few hours each day. It changes summertime, wintertime, daylight saving time, winter time. So you can ask me about that too, or post any questions if you're really ready to go up to visit the Temple Mount. If you are Muslim, then you can enter all of the other 9 gates to the Temple Mount, and those are open 24/7. But non-Muslim people can only enter through this gate. You can exit from any of the gates, aside for this gate. This gate is only for entry for non-Muslims. And the other gates are for entry for Muslims, the other 9 gates, and also for exit for everyone. So when we go up onto the Temple Mount, we come through the Mugrabi gate, which is the southernmost gate on the Western Wall, and then we can visit the Temple Mount, and we can exit from any of the other gates. Here we are on the southern part of the Temple Mount. The building in front of us is the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is on the southernmost part of the Temple Mount. And we can see here capital pillars at the top of the many pillars that are archaeology, the findings of archaeology, things that were left here from the different huge, magnificent buildings that stood here on the Temple Mount. Some of them possibly may belong to the temple, to the second temple particularly, that was built by Herod and was a very magnificent building. And here we can see the Dome of the Rock. We are going to be walking all around the Dome of the Rock. We are not going today to go up to the higher platform. We're walking around the mountain. Here we can see the front of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. So this is the northern part. The entrance is from the north. Currently, all of the buildings on the Temple Mount are off limits for non-Muslim people. That wasn't always the situation. The policies regarding visitation for non-Muslims to the Temple Mount has changed over the ages. For many, many years, non-Muslims were not allowed to enter the
Temple Mount from the Mameluke period, from the 13th, 14th century till modern times, till the middle of the 19th century. Non-Muslims could not enter the Temple Mount at all, while the area was controlled by Muslim governments, and there were actually guards who non-Muslim people were killed for entering the Temple Mount even by mistake. So the policies have changed over the different periods, and Jerusalem, the old city of Jerusalem, what is considered Eastern Jerusalem, was liberated by the IDF, by Israel in 1967 from the Jordanians. And since Israel has controlled the area, the policies here have changed over that period of time as well. Still to this day, Jewish people are not officially allowed to pray on the Temple Mount, and we're not allowed to bring up any holy books. Even today, at the security point at the beginning, there's a X-ray machine like in the airports for security, and you need to put your bags through the X-ray machine, and you need to go through a metal detector doorway. And the security guard there saw that I had books in my knapsack, and she asked me what the books were, and she made me take them out, and I had a Bible, and she informed me that I'm not allowed to enter the Temple Mount with the Bible. So I needed to leave that outside. I actually went outside of the security check, and I placed it there. I just placed it, and hoped that no one would take it while I was visiting, and I left it there. So here we're on the southern part of the Temple Mount, and there's just so much to see here. I'm not going to describe every detail of what we're seeing. We are now looking to the north, and you can see these beautiful path entrance ways that beautify the site. And understand that this holy place, the Temple Mount, throughout history had a great significance to the different peoples who lived here. Of course, it was always holy to the Jewish people. According to our tradition, in the Bible we read that King David, after he established his throne in Jerusalem, he purchased this area from Arnon HaYevusi, and meant to build the temple here. Up until that time, the worship was in the tent. The Holy of Holies was in a tent, and we read in the book of Samuel that King David decided that he wanted to build a home for God, and for this reason he built the mount. The Temple Mount is north of the city of David. It's higher than the city of David. It's not the highest mountain in the area. The Mount of Olives is to the east of us. It's higher, and to the north of us the mountains are higher. And the Jewish quarter is on the western mountains, the west of us. But he purchased this land to establish the temple, and then the Bible tells us that God said to David, to King David, you fought many battles, you have blood on your hands, so you will not build the temple to my name. But David passed on this request to his son Solomon, Hamelech Shlomo, and instructed him to build the temple on the Temple Mount. So King Solomon, Shlomo Hamelech, built the first temple. This is all according to tradition. I'm saying it's according to tradition because this site is not, there are no archaeological digs that have been conducted on the Temple Mount because of the political sensitivity between the Jews and the Muslims, and all of the sensitivity that is connected to this. There are no real archaeological digs on the Temple Mount itself, and all of the information, all of the scientific information that we have regarding the authenticity of the traditions of the Bible regarding the Temple Mount at this point, regarding the first temple, is based on archaeology outside of the Temple Mount. The Bible then goes on to tell us that the first temple was destroyed, and then the children of Israel were banished to Babylon, and then King Cyrus, the Persian king, gave them permission to build the second temple, and they came back 70 years later, and they built the second temple here on the Temple Mount. And we have more archaeological items relating to the second temple. And then, of course, Herod the Great built a magnificent temple, which is also considered the second temple, but he built it on top of the original second temple, and it was much greater. And that is what we envision when we speak about the Israelite temple that stood on the Temple Mount. We're thinking about the temple that was built by King Herod the Great, who was towards the very end of the Second Temple period. Herod the Great died about -4 Common Era CE. Now we are on the eastern side of the Temple Mount. We're looking at the Dome of the Rock. We're walking along the wall of the Temple Mount, along the eastern wall. The eastern wall of the Temple Mount is also the eastern wall of the old city of Jerusalem. The eastern wall and most of the southern wall of the Temple Mount are also part of the wall surrounding the old city of Jerusalem. There's a possibility to walk along the walls of the old city of Jerusalem, but not at these sections, not at the parts that are around the Temple Mount. There's a visiting site called the Old City Ramparts. There's an entrance near the Jaffa Gate where you can go up. It's paid admission, it's not very expensive, it's a couple of shekels. You can go up onto the wall of the old city, and you can walk along the wall from Jaffa Gate all the way to the Lion's Gate. The Lion's Gate is the closest to the gate of the tribes, Shara Shvatim, on the northeastern part of the Temple Mount. So if you walk on the ramparts, you can walk from the Jaffa Gate to the Lion's Gate, or you can get off of the ramparts at other gates on the way. The entire length of the wall of the old city of Jerusalem is 4 kilometers, and you can walk about 3 kilometers of it. And from the top of the wall, there's a very beautiful scenery that you can see all around. So here we're standing on the eastern side of the Temple Mount, and we can look to the west and we can see the Dome of the Rock. And around us we can see the Israeli police officers who are escorting us along our tour on the Temple Mount. And in the distance we can see some Arab families who are picking olives from the olive trees on the Temple Mount. Yes, there are olive trees. I suppose that they are the property of the Waqf, of the Islamic Trust. And the families who are picking them are either allowed to buy them or working for them, I'm not sure which. And we can also see a lot of area on the Temple Mount that is not really cared for. You can see piles of rocks, and you can see areas that are not developed, and just earth and stones. all of this area has everything here has huge archaeological significance, meaning that if a archaeologist were allowed to come up on the Temple Mount and dig down at any of these locations, so much information could be found here regarding the history of the Temple Mount to understand exactly how the where the temple stood, because there are all different theories and the measurements and so forth, but it's all based on little bits and pieces of information that were collected over the ages. Most of the people who are on the tour with us today are fellow tour guides. There are a couple of Jewish people who are walking with us and are saying some prayers without being stopped or detected by the police, and the Muslims are keeping a distance from our group, which is nice that Jewish people are now able, at some extent, to pray at the holy place. This, the Temple Mount is the holiest place in the Jewish tradition. This is the place where the temple stood. Commonly, there are many people who might think that the Western Wall is the holiest place for the Jewish people. It's the most visited place for prayer for Jewish people, and the most visited tourist attraction in Israel, the Western Wall. But the importance of the Western Wall is actually because the Western Wall is a retaining wall for the Temple Mount. Its importance comes from the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is the important part. The structure that we see in front of us now is the Golden Gate, Shar HaRachamim, the Gate of Mercy. This is a gate that is closed off with stone, a stone wall from the outside. It's on the eastern wall of the Temple Mount. And there are all different stories or beliefs of why it's closed, uh, possibly for mystic reasons, possibly because the Muslims don't want the Messiah to come through the Golden Gate. And there are different theories about that, but the actual reason is not really known, and also is not actually known for a fact is who built the Golden Gate and why, what the purpose of this gate was when it was first built. There are different theories regarding that as well. It very well might have been the Crusaders who built it, but we don't know for certain. Getting back to the holiness of the Temple Mount, there are many Jewish people who do not go to the Temple Mount because of the holiness of the place, because they fear that they are not pure enough to go up to the holy place. They too realize that the Temple Mount is much more important than the Western Wall, but the Western Wall is a place that is outside of the Temple Mount and is accessible. So many Jews feel safer praying at the Western Wall. And as I mentioned earlier, for many years during the Muslim control of the Temple Mount, the Muslims forbid Jews and others and Christians from entering the Temple Mount, and non-Muslims who were caught on the Temple Mount could have been killed. So it's become a custom for many, many years not to access the Temple Mount. And some believe that it's a Jewish religious requirement not to go up to the Temple Mount because we are not spiritually pure. And today there are many of the Jews who do go up to the Temple Mount, prepare themselves by going to the ritual bath, to the mikveh, before they go up to the Temple Mount. and those Jews uh, typically do not wear regular shoes when they walk on the Temple Mount. They either wear shoes that have no leather on them, like rubber sandals, or even go barefoot. So when we are walking around on the Temple Mount, we might see religious Jewish people who are walking barefoot on the Temple Mount to express their awe of the holiness of the place, the holiness of the site. Here we're looking down at the Golden Gate from the inside. This is not the same wall that you see at the Western Wall on the other side, because this is a whole building. The gate is a huge, very elaborate and beautiful building. And alongside the building, if we look down, we can see something covered. The underneath that cover, there's like a tent cover. Underneath that are is wood that was found on the Temple Mount, and some researchers took a specimen from the wood for a carbon-14 examination. Carbon-14 is a type of laboratory test that can date ancient pieces of material, of organic material. And it was found that that wood dates back to the time of the temple. And it's believed that these are artifacts from the temple, from the second temple itself. But the Muslims who control the area and are in possession of this wood do not want this to be taken to a museum and investigated further. So they've placed it there under the cover, and without much care are just hoping that it will rot away and disappear. We're now walking on the northern side of the Temple Mount, and to the north of us is a boys' school, a Muslim's boys' school called Omariya, Madrasat Omariya. And to the south of us, we're going to see the Dome of the Rock. It is believed by most researchers, by most scholars, that the Dome of the Rock is the place of the Holy of Holies. The temple itself, the most inner part of the temple, the Jewish first and second temple, stood on a rock that in Hebrew is called Even Hashtiyah. According to the Jewish tradition, the sacrifice of Isaac, Akidat Yitzchak, Abraham nearly sacrificed his son, and then God told him not to. It took place at Mount Moriah. So according to the Jewish tradition, this took place at the Even Hashtiyah. And later, this place was chosen by King David to build the temple. There's even a tradition that Adam Harishon, Adam, the first man, was created from the earth of this place. So under the Dome of the Rock, there is a huge stone, and in this stone there is a cave, and this whole area is within the Dome of the Rock. All of the buildings on the Temple Mount all of them are on the possession of the Muslim Waqf, and Jews and all non-Muslims are not allowed to enter any of the buildings on the Temple Mount. This wasn't always the case, but over the past few years, since the Intifada al-Aqsa, the second Intifada, non-Muslims have not been allowed to enter the buildings on the Temple Mount. So, regardless to the Jewish traditions regarding the holiness of this place, we can't enter in any case. We can't enter in any case. We can just walk around the area of the Temple Mount as we are doing now. We could walk on the higher area. The Dome of the Rock is on the higher elevated area of the Temple Mount. We can walk around. We can examine the exterior walls of the Dome of the Rock and the other buildings that are open, but we cannot enter any of the closed buildings. Only Muslim people are allowed to enter. If I'm a Jewish Israeli tour guide, if I were to take a Muslim tour group to the Temple Mount, they would be allowed to enter the buildings, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the Dome of the Rock, and the other buildings on the Temple Mount, but I, as a Jewish person, would not be able to enter any of the buildings. Again, as I mentioned earlier, you can feel free, if you have any questions about this tour or about other tours or other places in Israel, you can feel free to post your questions in the comment area of the video and contact me, or if you're planning your tour to Israel, you can and you need any help with that, feel free to contact me about that as well. I'll be glad to try best I can to help you figure out all of those details. And if you would like to hire me as a tour guide, I would be pleased to take you to lead you on a tour here to the Temple Mount and to many other amazing locations throughout Israel. And again, although we've been talking on this video for a good couple of minutes, we're just scratching the surface on this tour. There is so much to talk about on the Temple Mount and to zero in. I mentioned some of the history of King David choosing the site to build the temple, and King Solomon building the first temple, which was destroyed by the Babylonians, and then the second temple was built and stood here and was beautified and expanded by Herod, and then in the year 70 it was destroyed by the Romans. But this place is the center of the Jewish faith. Jewish people all around the world throughout the ages have faced this site in prayer 3 times every day. So if you visit a synagogue at any location in the world, that synagogue is facing the land of Israel, and the Mishnah, the basic rabbinical teaching, tells us that when you pray, you need to face the land of Israel. But if you are in the land of Israel, you need to face Jerusalem. And if you are in Jerusalem, you need to face the Temple Mount, and particularly the Beit Kodesh HaKodeshim. Beit Kodesh HaKodeshim, the Holy of Holies, which is believed to be the same site where the Dome of the Rock is. The Dome of the Rock is the site of the Holy of Holies, is built on the Eben Hashtiyah, the rock of foundation.
החודש היה אז, כלום לא היה בו, והוא מלווה את החפירה של מנהרות הכותל. מלווה את החפירה של מנהרות הכותל, הוא ממש פעיל, ותוך כדי חפירה ב-1981 החוקרים מגיעים לשער שנקרא שער וורן או שער הכהנים, שער מאוד משמעותי שהכהנים היו עולים ויורדים ממנו, כלומר הוא נמצא בצד מערב במנהרות הכותל, הוא נמצא ממש מול קודש קודשים. הרב גש מתרגש מאוד לראות את השער הזה, נעשה שם תיקון חצות. יודעים מה זה תיקון חצות? לא תשעה באב, אנחנו בוכים על חורבן הבית, כל לילה בחצות ושם נבקש לשים ארון קודש באותו שער, כי
הרבה ששומעים שבכלל הלכו בשיטת הרגל המאירי אולי לפי ההיסטוריה נראה שהבית
תקופה מאוד מאוד של 100 מטר שמתחילה מהחפירה של מהכותל המערבי שם, בחפירה של המנהרה עד לתוך הר הבית, עד לתוך בית המקדש, אזור בית המקדש. לפני שאני מתחילה את הסיפור, אתם יכולים לראות את הקיר המערבי המקורי של בית המקדש. לא נראה עוד איזה
זה נסדר את המקום, אז הוא צריך לשמור, ככה אני מבין. כל פעם שהיהודים ילכו לבית.
בואו, ממשיכים חברים. עולם אותה הביתה היום? בוא, בבקשה, רק לא להתנתק מהקבוצה, כי אז אני צריך לפתוח ידיים וזה עושה לי שרירי גם.
זה מצמיד לך חולצה עוד יותר.
כן, ואז אומרים שהתפצעת.
את שני הפירים האלה, שבעצם נראה שהמנהרה הזאת יש מצב שאני מתמקרת שאר הכהנים.
Friends, that was a tour of the Temple Mount, and I hope that you enjoyed this. Check out the other videos and send me your thoughts and comments about this video and any questions, and hopefully we will visit here together. Be well. Shalom.